Thank you very much for inviting me for this really inspiring talk this morning and yesterday. I'm really an honor to be able to participate. So I wanted to start with this topic called wisdom, since we've had so much reflection on this by different people. And maybe I could also add a little bit of something in that there's something about it, the knowing that we have, that is not fettered by or limited to or defined by this very small unit called me. So part of wisdom is what is knowing that comes from openness, that comes from spaciousness, that comes from non-concept or from direct experience. And that not only lives in us, has been said, but lives in us collectively, like in this room. That wisdom lives in all of us and collectively can be uncovered. So it's not so much that we're short on wisdom on the planet, but maybe we're a little short on how that comes forth, and particularly how together that comes forth. So the work that I do is called social presencing theater. Social presencing is really social awareness. This is a word actually that was put together now by Otto Scharmer, and it's really social awareness. And the root of the word theater means a place where something significant is seen, is visible. And as long as there have been people, there's been theater. A place where people can see and enact, embody what it is to be a human being with other human beings. So the form, this is what the form is called, and something that we've been developing. My own background is as a dancer, as was said, as a dance teacher, and I did this, what's called Japanese quarter dance. It's called bugaku. It's been described as excruciatingly leisurely. It's done exactly the same way since about the 700s. There's nothing inventive particularly about it. And then the other side of my work was with kids and communities and in making work in the theater, and that was made on the spot and improvised. And so both of these forms require a certain kind of paying attention to the body, to the others, to the community, sometimes to music or visual artists or whoever is making with us. So in 2004, I met Otto Scharmer, who you'll meet this afternoon if you haven't met him before. He articulates this theory called the you theory, completely kind of natural and creative way of making a society. My own background, I'm trained by my own spiritual teacher, who was Chogyam Rinpoche, who taught on perception, on something coming from nothing, and on how art and everyday life is a pathway for creating enlightened society. And through the ALIA Institute for Authentic Leadership, I met Otto, and he was interested in this kind of movement and group work, in what it could bring to his own work on open heart, open mind, open heart, and open will. So that the social presencing theater is very much a collaboration with him and other colleagues. We make stuff up together, basically. And that's what we make up, we call social presencing theater. It starts very much with the body, as we have in our workshop today, with this body that we live in, and how this body is planted on this earth, this good Mother Earth body, that it always stays connected, this body. So your body, right, that you can feel that you live there, it's home. And that its language, the body's language, is feeling. So not feeling like emotion particularly, but it's a feeling sense of living in this body. And that's the basis of the work, this sense that we're not always captured by discursiveness, by ideas, by projections, but that there's some ability to let the thinking mind like step to the back and let the feeling body come forward as a voice in the conversation, as a voice in terms of what it is to be a human being. So we start like we did yesterday. Couldn't be simpler. 20-minute dance. Everybody does it every day. If you're a practitioner of social presencing theater, just lie down on the floor and do some moving and some stillness. That's it. Pay attention to what it feels like. What does this shape feel like? And what does this shape want to do? What does the body actually want to do? What is this shape? What does the shape want to do? So that we're tuning into what is sort of the natural ability of the body to go toward healthiness, to go toward, I've done millions of 20-minute dances with, thousands of people. And I've never had anyone say, at the end of this, I feel like more stressed out, more tense, more discombobulated than when I started. Folks don't do that. Maybe somebody does. But I've never seen anybody do that. That by 20 minutes of just staying with the body, doing whatever it wants to do, it naturally moves towards health. So if this system, body-mind system, will do that, what about other systems, family systems, teams, organizations? How do systems move toward what is healthy and sane? You could just do that in your chair if you want. Just notice that this is a shape, right? You're still. And then you shift. That's a movement, right? And then you're still. And then you move. So what is it? Like, what is the motive force that inspires change? So the premise is that this body-mind, when it's synchronized on this earth planet between the sky and the heaven, that's a good thing. And that for no reason whatsoever, that in itself is a sense of being, a sense of well-being, and that there's an unconditional kind of confidence that comes from that. And that's experienceable, it's available, it's naturally connected, it's naturally curious, it extends out. So this peculiar little drawing, these are all little body minds, and body minds, they don't stay like, what about me, what about me? They naturally, when there's a little bit of groundedness and a little bit of, they naturally extend out. And this is now moves into this idea of the social body. So social bodies, the practice is a little village. We did this yesterday in the workshop. Just by walking and turning and sitting and standing together, if we all did this in the room together, the practice is to extend out. So it's not just that I feel my body, but I feel myself as part of a social body, right? This is a social body here. So that practice, do we feel that when you're on an airplane, which many of us are on a lot? Do I feel this is the flight 277 social body, right? Or this is the subway social body. Because for that time, right, the time that takes me to get from here to there, This is the social body. It creates a certain social reality. It creates what is a social fabric. We don't have to be talking to each other, but it's a feeling quality that together we share in something and we create something which is a little society. So how does that work? How do we make social reality, social fabric? The practice is a village. So here's a bunch of folks doing practically nothing. They walk, they turn, they stand, they pay attention. They join in when somebody's doing something that looks interesting. They notice what it's like to be in the center or on the fringe, the periphery. They do the same as, they contrast, they're attracted, they're open to something, or we feel that we close down, right? Every moment there's a bigger or a smaller open, close, open, close. It happens all the time, right? That there's a sense of moving forward, or there's a sense of having an opinion, an assumption, a worry, a tendency to push away or deny or seduce or complain about or whatever. It happens all the time. So we're just noticing that, since we can't talk or we don't have any goal particularly, we just notice the dynamic of what it is to be a human with a bunch of other humans, and what is it that we make together? What is it that we can co-create together? The connection, disconnection, feeling included, feeling excluded, the whole array of what it is to be in a social body, in a group. So then we apply this to a specific situation, which we call the stuck. So the stuck means part of a creative process is that it isn't moving forward. It's everybody's life, right? Sometimes things are moving forward. Sometimes it feels like what we are trying to create is not moving forward. And we call that, in this work, the stuck. So the practice is to how do we turn toward the stuck and lean in and listen to the stuck, rather than try to get rid of the stuck, outsource it to a consultant or something, or a therapist. You actually say, what does it feel like? So again, it's not psychotherapy or psychodrama, it's an actual physical feeling. Does it feel held back? Does it feel like held down? Does it feel like, it's stretched in too many directions? It's like conflicting loyalties? Does it feel like it can't see, can't speak? What does it actually feel like, the stuck? That there are forces. They could be external, not enough funding, wrong team, whatever, no support. Or it could be interior, like shyness or, lack of confidence or whatever. It doesn't make any difference what it is. What it matters is that what it feels like. So we ask people just to make a shape. Embody that you're stuck. It's not like I'm stuck. It's like there's a stuck. There's a stuck. It's like a show and tell. I'd like to show you my stuck. So it's not a definition of oneself. It's something that's part of an innovation process or a living life, a learning life, right? So we just ask people to embody them. This is our wonderful group in Denmark. They're doing their stucks. And they have different, how do you get into your stuck? It's completely like whatever is up for you as a stuck. Then, through this, what's called the U process, we go through what does it feel like, the sensing into it, letting that go, and what does it want to move into? What does it actually want to do? It, not me, what I think about what I want to do, but what does the body feel like doing, given that it starts there? So it moves then to something else, and sometimes we put words to it. What does the stuck feel like? What is the second sculpture to? It's not a problem solution method. It's just a way to get the body in the conversation of what's going on, because the body often knows what's going on. So this is like different people that send in their pictures on ULab, which is our online course, of their stuck, and then moving into their sculpture too. So it's done individually, and then it's done in teams. Like I say to Alfred, can you help me feel more stuck? And so I say, the stuck feels like there's pressure here. So could you put your hands here and just lean on me so that you feel, you move toward the discomfort. You move toward it and listen. What does it feel like? We make it louder. And we make it in teams. So these are groups of people making stucks that then they move collectively like a social body. They move collectively. Nobody's stuck by themselves, right? You are stuck in systems. And stuck is not sustainable. It's just not a sustainable situation. Everything in nature is moving, as we know. So they move, right, it's a group of physicians in Ohio, right? And they get up and they make their stucks and moving. These are just groups of people on the planet that do stucks. So then you can make stucks as a system. So this is really the work more that Otto's doing now, in which each of the players embodies some aspect or some stakeholder in the system. And in the Theory U work, those three that Julia mentioned yesterday, the disconnects between the planet, others, and oneself, they're always players in every 4D map. So the Earth always has a role, and the marginalized populations on the planet, those who suffer most, those whose voices are least heard, they always have a voice in every sculpture. And then what one would call one's sort of wisdom self, it always has a place in every sculpture, so that they're always there. Plus then it could be healthcare or education or climate or banking or whatever the system is that you're looking at. This is called a 4D map, but the same method. They embody what they feel is the current situation. And then by paying attention to the whole system, like what does it feel like? So we're using feeling, like what does it feel like to be here, to be lower than others, to be higher than, to be in the center, to be in a mass of power, to be on the margin, to look away. Like what does it feel like? And we're using that as a guide to, again, just get a little bit more information about not only the beginning, which is the stuck, but more important, where is the health? Where is the wisdom? Like where is the sanity in that system? And how could that show up? And then how can we prototype something from that? Okay, where am I? I have no idea. Oh yeah, so just going to finish here. Several of us at Presidency Institute are working with education, K through 12 education. And we're using Otto Scharmer's model of generative education. What is a ecosystem-based education rather than ecosystem in terms of relationship between the student and the learner and the teacher, as it were, and then how the system can shift with that based upon the feeling of that particular relationship. I'm sure when Otto speaks this afternoon, he might go over the matrix, maybe not specifically around education, but that's what we're working with. And I'm working mostly in schools in South Central Los Angeles, in high schools. So there's a little video which apparently, unfortunately, I can't show because of some technical difficulty, but here are some, anyway, still pictures of the kids and teachers using this method, the social presencing theater. We often, with kids, use Polaroids and or Play-Doh or something that they can also look at their stuck from the outside. Teachers trying to kind of get a feeling for this is another method for teachers co-creating with us things that they can do in their classrooms. We have this wonderful woman here in Norway, Ingvild Overland, And she's doing this work with kids in kindergarten schools here in Norway, and also now in China. So her work is very much part of what we're doing. So this is you'll have to visualize these kids, but basically, we're talking about like between information overload and immigration uncertainty for these kids. These are dreamers, right? They don't know whether they'll be deported. And just academic pressure. Most of them live in households where they don't speak English as their first language, and they're expected to test and to take SATs and to get into college or some kind of post-high school education. Plus, they live in poverty and in violence. And in that system, like, what is it to learn, right? What is it to be able to learn? I can't even imagine learning in that situation. And yet these kids and teachers work in that systemic oppression continually, and they learn. And so it's very inspiring to see that they can get into these practices that then allow them to talk about what it is in their life. And some of them, hardly talk at all about their personal situation, and many of them feel very isolated and alone. And once they can work in teams like this and help each other, moving from stack to what we call sculpture 1 to sculpture 2, and then have some conversation about that, it gives them some way, to feel that they can create a kind of life that they want. I mean, there's very little support for that. It's one thing to be in a school for a while. It's quite another thing to feel that makes enough impact to change a system, even one school. But that's the journey that we're on now. And we are very, very grateful. We have practitioners all over the place trying this out in China, South America, here in Europe. This is, again, our part of our Danish group, but groups in Vienna and France and various places, Berlin, and the American group, which is very global. Those of us that come together that are actually trying this out and bringing not only the theory U, but this particular kind of art-based form into trying to, make some kind of some kind of vehicle for bringing out what we do know, our own creativity, our own care, incredible care for this world. And there's nobody in a school system that wants a bad system, right? Everybody wants to live in a good society. So the accessing of that is what I feel. I've heard so many inspiring things yesterday and this morning in terms of how we have the courage to do that, to just step out and try kind of unusual stuff, like this is unusual. But you'd be surprised how little pushback I get on this in companies and schools, because folks, things are falling apart, and people want to try anything where they can connect their heart and their body and their intelligence to create as my teacher used to say, an enlightened society. So I really appreciate your attention. Thank you.